Welcome back. In part one, we talked a little bit about TSMC, Taiwan's most valuable company, which is a third party foundry, meaning that they help fabless semiconductor companies, you mean the ones with custom chip designs, to create and sell their chips. TSMC pioneered the business model and wrote it to become Taiwan's most valuable company and the pride of the island's economy. But as we talked about at the end of part one, there's a new competitive threat, and that is China. China's semiconductor sales take up the small minority of the industry on the whole, despite being the world's largest consumer of the product, meaning that all the chips are being made eventually get sent to China so that they can be put into the objects they'll be used, like phones, other electronics, stuff like that. But China wants to be dominant in the market. In June 2014, the government released a plan, the promotion of a national IC industry development guidelines, with the goal of developing a homegrown semiconductor industry and becoming a global leader by 2030. Their explicit goal is to grow the native industry's domestic market share, which as of 2018 was about 20%, to 70% over the next 7 years. China is a country that loathes critical dependency on any foreign country, and this applies to virtually everything, and semiconductors remain a shortcoming in China's drive for independence, a sore weakness upon which the U.S. hit. On April 16, 2018, the U.S. government announced that it would ban Chinese telecommunications supplier ZTE Corporation from receiving parts made with U.S. technology. The stock tanked and the company was crippled, redesigning its products so not to use the 25% of components originating from the United States would be basically impossible. Realizing this, the government has spent immense amounts of money to subsidize a homegrown semiconductor industry, leveraging the domestic market with the goal of eventually achieving global market dominance. And it uses a number of methods to actually achieve this. One of the more controversial ones is called forced technology transfers. The party regularly leverages access to the massive Chinese market to get these technology transfers, quote unquote, to domestic Chinese players. So let me show you how that means. If a US company like GM wants to sell cars to Chinese people, they're not allowed to simply import it wholesale and sell it. Rather, the party requires them to create a joint venture with a domestic Chinese company and build those products inside Chinese borders. The car example is a little outdated. They've recently just made it so that you can actually own 100% of a Chinese subsidiary. But the car one is probably the one most people would recognize. To be fair, this method is not original. Japan and South Korea have also done the same, writing partnerships with British and American companies to sector dominance. Samsung Electronics would not be the top maker of memory chips without its earlier partnerships. TSMC, like I said before, began by licensing older technologies and partnering with Philips Electronics to develop chips from the very start, before learning and eventually becoming a market leader. And TSMC and other Western technology companies have become more familiar with these techniques, and I want to talk a little bit about how they kind of manage it. Manufacturing companies like BMW have a playbook. Give them older tech. TSMC's mainland factories are 2 generations behind the newest, most profitable technologies. So to make it more solid for you guys, the one that is actually in China are making chips to be put into that what would now be the iPhone 7. The leading edge, most sophisticated technologies, for example, the chips behind the iPhone XS, stay on Taiwan Island. And for additional insurance, the mainland factories are actually 100% owned. It's a quirk of the One China policy, which does not allow Chinese to see Taiwan as foreign. The bigger issue is theft. China is known for offering massive pay bonuses to poach employees of competitors. It would offer salaries 3 to 5 times of what a person could get in Taiwan, but before they head over to the new job, they ask those people to copy files of private technologies and bring it along with them. And then there's also the military hacking of companies to take their trade secrets so that to deliver them to Chinese companies. All these are real problems. All these are some things that TSMC and other companies have to deal with. So it's a little troubling. But here's something I think about when I think about TSMC's ability to compete in the medium-term future. TSMC created a third-party foundry model, but the company is still number one because CEO Morris Chang realized that their business is not actually about technology, foundry, all that other stuff. It's actually about service and trust. TSMC has 50% market share not because it has the lowest prices, it does not, nor is it because it has the most cutting-edge tech, most fabless companies do not need them. It's because TSMC is trustworthy and service-oriented. So I think the company's future depends actually a lot on the question of how much do you trust China with your intellectual property? That's one of 2 critical questions that we should ponder for as TSMC's future continues to unfold. So let's kind of wrap it up now. TSMC is the crown jewel of the Republic of China's economy. It's a repository of Taiwan's economic future hopes. It's a world-class player based on a small, not-so-world-class island that few can tell apart from People's Republic of China. It is a core player, nevertheless, in America's technological future when Apple, Google, Qualcomm, Nvidia, and AMD all go to with their most precious secrets and designs for the manufacture of their most important silicon. It also sits 100 miles from China and operates in an industry the party has flagged as one of their Tier 1 economic goals. Virtually all of its multi-billion-dollar foundries are in Taiwan. So I want to end this off with this final question, one of two. How big of a deal is it that so many of the world's most high-profile consumer electronics products depend on a single company located in one of the touchiest political hotspots in the world? All right, have a good one, everyone. Good night.